387. San Juan Regional Medical Center, caring for the Four Corners since 19.
April the 1st. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM. Coming up this morning, we're going to be talking about real estate in San Juan County with my guests, Bryan Crawford and Barry Digman from Keller Williams. So we hope you'll stay tuned for that. And then, of course, later on this hour, Dr. Mike Hadaba will be joining me this morning from the Encouragement Lab. And this morning, Dr. Hadaba has a great message for us, how to avoid the crazy. I appreciate that, and we'll be talking more about that later on this hour right here on KSJE. Don't forget, at 9 a.m., it is KSJE's Community Service Program, our local COVID-19 program that we are streaming on YouTube and Facebook. You can see that and join us live at 9. And then, of course, we'll be airing that later on the radio at 5 p.m. this afternoon. Also, our radio partner, KNMI, is airing this program at noon on their radio station, 88.9. On our radio waves at 9 a.m., Mick Hess will take us roving with the arts. At 9:06 after the news, Mick is playing music from Haydn this morning on the program, so join him for that. And that takes us to 10:30, KSJE's local and regional author program right on Four Corners. Tracy Hales-Vass is speaking with author Kate Ronner about her latest book called Titan. That interview you'll hear today at 10:30 right here on KSJE. As I mentioned, our coronavirus program on the radio at 5:06 p.m. And don't forget, of course, in addition to Facebook and YouTube, you can always connect with us on Twitter and check us out on Instagram as well. Our weather forecast today, it's going to be partly sunny skies, 68 for a high in Farmington, 42 overnight. Windy and 67 on Thursday, 33 overnight tomorrow night, 60 and mostly sunny on Friday, then near 70 for Saturday and Sunday with plenty of sunshine, sunny and 66 by Monday. Well, let me turn to my guests who are here with me this morning to talk about the wild world of real estate. Barry Digman is here from Keller Williams. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Welcome to KSJE. Good to have you here.
Well, thanks for having us here.
You bet. Bryan Crawford also joining us from Keller Williams. Bryan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I am well. Good to have you here as well, and thank you both for coming in. And it's great to have you here in the studio, although we were practicing our social distancing. So, as they say in your business, it's all about location, 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 right?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been saving that all morning, you guys. I've used that. I just have to tell you. So give us an update on the situation in the real estate market, and I guess we kind of have this maybe before spring break and then after spring break when we talk about things these days. What's the latest, Bryan?
Well, I think spring break is indefinite at this point, isn't it? But
well, we had it, but I don't know if we really had it. You know,
right?
It seems like life before spring break was very different than life after spring break.
Yeah, that's certain. You know, in the real estate market right now, we're seeing some changes. The biggest change that we're seeing is a massive reduction in inventory levels, and that's not necessarily because they're all selling, but we just don't have new listings like we normally do this time of year. You know, this time of year we're seeing somewhere between 40 and 50 new houses hit the market each week, and the biggest thing that we've seen in this virus outbreak is we've seen a massive reduction in new listings. We have not seen a big reduction in sold listings. In fact, what we're seeing so far this year is a 4% increase in sold listings, and these are the numbers through the end of March. But Barry, as you well know, we're not always the best at reporting our numbers, so these numbers will probably look better in about 2 weeks.
And these numbers are from all the real estate agents in the county, or just from you folks?
Yeah, this is from all the real estate agents. So we're cooperating brokers. There's a little over 180 real estate brokers in San Juan County. So this is all reports from all brokerages. Now, these numbers, these final numbers are due, and what we'll see is we'll see some final numbers for March come out in 10 days. What won't change is the new listing numbers and also the active listings, because that number propagates automatically through the system, we will see an increase in sold stats, and we will see an increase in pending stats. So the numbers will only look better as the next 2 weeks go by.
Gotcha. But as we were talking before we came on the air this morning, that there is a little bit of changes that you all are doing with the way the world is operating these days, and yet you're still selling in houses, and people are still buying houses and other property and things like that. There's still open houses and tours and things like that, but you're doing them all a little bit differently.
We are doing them differently, Scott.
How does that work?
Well, for example, I showed a house yesterday. A lot of areas are not doing live open houses. We're still doing live open houses. We'll see if that changes. But
Okay.
we're taking, really serious precautions when we go in. I carry Clorox wipes, and I wipe the entire house down before I show it, okay? All the knobs, door pulls, anything like that somebody might touch. We try to have customers not touch anything. We'll set the doors
Even
open.
in normal times,
Even
right?
in normal times.
Don't touch that.
We'd rather them not go pawing through everything.
Right.
But it's just your natural inclination. If there's a closet, you want to see what that closet looks like.
Does it have room for my 85 pairs of shoes? Yeah, exactly.
Some people would, we would like to be able to use booties, but as Brian mentioned earlier, because of everything that's going on, that's personal protective equipment. That needs to go to hospitals and doctors and things like that. So we're just not able to provide all of that.
But you've got the wipes. And
We've got the wipes.
Okay.
We show the home. We maintain safe distances with our customers. They leave the home. I go through again and wipe everything down. And, it's so far so good. It's working well.
That's good. And again, this is probably unprecedented for both of you in your careers in real estate. Have you ever seen something like this before?
No. This is all new for everybody.
Right. Very, very true.
Yeah.
But people are still out, right? If folks are still looking online at potential houses and they're in the buying mood, they could still call you to get in and see
Absolutely, yeah. And we do both. We do virtual tours for people who are not uncomfortable or who are not comfortable, going to a home live. They can look online. Brian, talk about the marvelous video you just did for me, Matterport, on my new listing. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've always done is we bought some 3D imaging equipment a few years ago, and we can do virtual tours through an entire house. So you can put on a VR headset and take your steps and use your remote and walk through a house, and it's very submersive. In fact, we had some friends at the house trying it out when I first bought it, and one of them got to the edge of the stairs and she stepped forward and kind of stumbled a little bit because she thought that she was actually going downstairs. So it's really interesting. What we've always kind of maintained that for ourselves, but now we've opened it up to other real estate brokers if they want to do that. We're basically doing it it's a small fee, but it covers our cost for the equipment and the time that it takes to shoot those houses because it's pretty labor intensive. But yeah, you can click on that link and you can actually do a full virtual walkthrough on a house without ever having to go into the house. And just to piggyback on what Barry said, as far as open houses go, we're not doing open houses. We are doing live showings right now.
I see. Right. Okay.
But our virtual open houses, a lot of times that consists of a Facebook live video where we have our phone and we are accepting comments and questions and that sort of thing. So for us, we've sold. My team has sold 5 houses this week, or put under contract. So it hasn't really slowed down the buyers. We are seeing some skepticism coming from sellers. So we don't have enough sellers entering the market.
Okay. Interesting. And so, and you bring up a whole other things that my mind is just, I've got a lot of follow-up questions here because technology really is changing what you're doing and changing how you've done it in the last, 5 years or so, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. One of the things that we did, I haven't been in real estate very long, about 3.5 years, and my goal was to come in and change the way real estate was marketed in San Juan County specifically. So what I did is I went into bigger markets and started pulling those ideas back into San Juan County. And now I think it's been a net win for the entire market, because now when you flip through the MLS, you're seeing professional photos from everybody. You're seeing a lot of drone shots. You're seeing Facebook Live. And really the consumer wins at the end of the day by being able to get a realistic view of what a house looks like. So technology has really changed the game. We're doing e-signatures. Through our company, Keller Williams, we actually have an option where we can do every step virtually, with the exception of closing. Closing has to be done in person, but there is some legislation that's proposed that will, the Electronic Notarization Act,
Okay.
that's before Congress right now. If that passes, we'll be able to do every step of the way without ever having to visit in person. Now, I know Barry and I like to do a business in a lot the same way, where we still like to get out, visit our clients, shake hands with them, grab lunch. We do a lot of coffees, lunches with our clients. Right now we can't do that. So technology has enabled us to continue doing business without the luxury of meeting people in person. So
Sure. And I would imagine, again, in a perfect world, there's a lot of folks who would like to see the house, walk through it, touch it, open the doors, check out the closets, everything else that they need to do. But there are some places, maybe if you're being transferred for work, you don't have that luxury maybe of going to that location and seeing the house. So it looks like that these bits of technology can also help with that. If you have to buy a house sight unseen, although I probably don't recommend it.
We've done it before.
I bet, right?
It happens sometimes. We've sold houses, and that's where a really good realtor comes into play. You've got to have a great relationship with that realtor. You've got to trust them. You've got to communicate exactly what you expect in a home, and they've got to be able to locate that and work with you. And they can always go in and video on their phone and get that to you. But even prior to COVID, we were able to do that for folks.
Right, a realtor could go do it for you if it's not available.
Yeah.
And Brian, you mentioned that when you do that kind of virtual tour, right? There's an additional cost for your sellers, I suppose, to cover your costs. So not everybody's able to do that. So
the way we do it, and I can't go into all the particulars because that would be a violation of antitrust laws. But
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that this morning.
Right. But for our, we do not.
I do a lot of things on this show, but that's not one of them.
Well, I like to dance on that line.
I appreciate it.
But as far as we're concerned, we do not charge our clients anything extra for any of the marketing that we do.
See.
So all of it is wrapped up in our standard fee. In my standard fee, I'll do professional photography. I'll do 3D imaging. So we do all of that, and it's included. And I don't charge any of my clients up front for any of that stuff. So if we sell the house, I get paid. If not, we end up eating those charges. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you. That's important to note, I think. And as folks are shopping around, that's something to consider.
Yeah.
Some of those things, correct? So there you go. There are some misconceptions that we were talking about before we came on the air this morning about the market and what's been going on. As we mentioned already, there are plenty of houses available, but not maybe an excess amount, which, again, you told me I was maybe wrong in that there's not any more houses for sale than there are maybe in a normal spring.
Yeah, what happens in an environment like this, everybody seems to be panicking. People are saying, I had somebody come into our open house, actually the last open house we did before we actually decided to stop doing them before we were told not to. But the last open house, I had this person come in and they go, oh yeah, it's just too bad. And I said, what do you mean it's too bad? And she says, well, it's just too bad what's going on in the real estate market in Farmington. And I said, can you unpack that a little bit for me? And she said, well, I heard that like 20 houses hit the market last week. And I said, yeah, and that's about 5 less than what our historical trend is for that particular week of the year. So one of the things that's interesting is I keep hearing that we have this overabundance of listings and that houses are sitting there, but the reality of it is, year over year, we are down 14.5% in active listings from last year.
Okay. And so there were more listings last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So last year, at the end of March, we had 497 houses on the market. This is residential listings. This year we've got 474. We have certain price ranges that are down 25% in inventory. So we have a lot of buyers who are in the market right now because of the historically low interest rates. Now, the interest rates are not zero, but we have a lot of buyers in the market who are looking, who cannot find the house that they want because there's a lack of inventory.
Okay. And that is, again, a part of our market. Is that similar to other markets in the state or around the country, or is that unique to San Juan County? Because I imagine a lot of these things change from market to market.
All real estate is local, yeah. So, if you're in a Denver market, a Phoenix market, a Las Vegas market, it's going to be different locally than what we're experiencing here in Farmington. Our economy is different.
Right.
It's always been counter-cyclical to the rest of the world. We know that when oil is at $20 a barrel, and natural gas is $1.62, that's not good for us here necessarily. But if you're driving a big diesel in L.A., you love that $20 a barrel oil. Okay?
Right.
And so that impacts our real estate market here.
Still a big driver, even as we try to diversify our economy. That really is some of the prime indicator, is it not?
It always is, yeah. Now,
for now,
we've got. I'm seeing more and more people who are interested in coming back to Farmington, and I love that. And Scott, I love promoting Farmington.
You do, yes.
And it's for people who are coming back to Farmington, now it's a pretty good time, to start looking. It really is. And for sellers, I want to encourage sellers, don't do that thing about I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. If your situation is that you have been thinking about putting a house on the market, I would encourage you to find a realtor you trust, somebody you can work with, and get that house listed, because as Brian said, he's got buyers out there. Brian's got a team, and he's got a buyer's agent, and that guy's got them loaded up, and they're ready to go if they can find the inventory right now, it's kind of
odd. Which is the right house at the right price and the right size and all those things, right?
Yeah. And you and I talked a little bit earlier, somebody drives down the street in their neighborhood and they see 3 signs up and they think the market is flooded. Well, it's just like buying that new car. You buy that new Ford F-150 blue pickup truck, and you drive down the street, and that's all you see are those F-150 pickup trucks. So, the number of signs you see on the street may or may not be an indication of what's going on in the market.
Right.
Pick up the phone and call a realtors and ask them what's going on in the market, and they'll be happy to talk to you about that.
Because you all have these numbers that you're sharing with us this morning
we
from the other
tons
brokerages.
Of numbers. Yeah.
Right. And you can show us historically where it's been and how that compares, right?
And Brian loves those graphs, man. He's got a whole slew of them over there. And he can explain them. That's the cool thing.
Well, that's the important part, too.
He knows what he's talking about there.
That's right. And so as we talk about that, then, as folks are maybe thinking about selling or listing or putting the house on the market, then comes the idea of, I guess, pricing it the right way and getting it at the right price. And that's another thing that's a little bit off from the numbers, correct?
Yeah, that's something that I found to be a bit fascinating, is that our average list price is up about 3.5% from last year. But our average sell price is actually down almost 5%. So we're seeing about an 8.5% disparity between what houses on average are listing for and what they're selling for. So you really want somebody who's going to give you an honest opinion of price, because what will happen if you're pricing your house 8% high to begin with, oftentimes you're going to take a 10 to 12% discount, because this takes into account all of those houses that are listed correctly and sell for 100% of the price, or even 105% of the price. We've had multiple offers on 2 occasions already this year where the house went over list price. So that's factored in here. So getting the right price to begin with is important, because it can cost you thousands in the long run
if it's not priced correctly. And I hear that from my realtor friends all the time.
Yeah, the longer you sit on the market, statistically speaking, the less you're going to take for your house.
Got it. And so, but the computer tells me that it's this value, so why can't I just sell it for that number? What's the problem with that?
Do you want to cover that one, Barry? Because I want to pound this one like a nail.
Their eyes got really big when I said that, everybody. But yeah, okay. What's wrong with that?
Well, again, all real estate is local, and if you've got a source online that is pricing your house, there's an algorithm that's involved in there, and it doesn't include that realtor going out and taking a look at what really went on, what that house that sold for 20% more than yours actually looked like. Did it have the granite countertops? You just recently remodeled the kitchen, the bathroom, and everything. And those things don't go into that calculation. That's where we come in. And if I can drill down a little bit more about that pricing, folks, don't take a position where I'm going to price this house way up high and we can always come down. Because what happens is that buyer takes a look at that house, and they've got a range that they're pre-qualified for. And if it doesn't fall in there, and it should, they're down the line. And they buy that house, a block away that is comparable to yours, but is priced to the market.
Right.
Okay.
Well, 97% of the time, your first showing is online. Yeah. So if you don't have it priced right, even though most people will go see a house in person before they buy it, if it's not priced right, people will not see your house.
It's outside of my search criteria, so I will never know your house is even for sale. I suppose if it's outside, if it's priced too high for what I'm pre-qualified for.
There you go.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about.
And the other thing that I want to speak to, Barry, is I think you did a great job covering that. But some of these internet algorithms are intentionally misleading. So Zillow and Trulia, those are advertising companies. They make their money by collecting your information and selling it to me and selling it to Barry and selling it to other real estate brokers in town. That's how they make their money. So if you're online and you see your Zestimate and you have your neighbor's house and he sold his house for $180,000 and you've got some type of estimate online that shows you $250,000, like, I guarantee you that if somebody offered my Zestimate for my house right now, I'd sell it. Don't tell my wife that.
Right.
But I've been there before. But if all of a sudden you think that you can get $50,000 more for your house than you owe on it, or than you bought it for 12 months ago, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to put your information into Zillow. They're going to, or I don't know if I can say Zillow, but anyway, into these internet search sites, you're going to put your information in. They're going to sell it to me. They're going to sell it to Barry. They're going to sell it to 3 other guys down the street. And we're all going to bombard your phone because we think that you're an interested seller. Now, all of a sudden, you're being harassed, and those companies falsely inflate values simply so that you'll put your information in there. They're advertising companies. That's how they make their money.
Right. And it's really hasn't it increased the competition a little bit in your business by having this other thing out there that folks can use to compare, or rightly or wrongly?
Yeah, I don't
having
know
that information out there.
I don't know if it's increased the competition. It's another tool that buyers and sellers have available to them. It's got to be used correctly. You just have to be careful when you're utilizing that kind of stuff that you bounce that off of a local expert, a local realtor that knows this market, knows what's going on.
Right. Okay. And when you guys go out and do a market valuation of a piece of property, right, you are looking at comps, I think, right,
exactly.
all the time,
Yeah.
and that's stuff from maybe in the same neighborhood or in the same zip code or whatever, right? So
and
you
we
get
have comps.
Yeah.
What most people don't realize is that New Mexico is a non-disclosure state. So while some of those automated valuation sites are a little bit more accurate, let's say you're in Phoenix and you've got a 10,000 house neighborhood with the same square footage and the same 3 floor plans, and you've got 100 sales in the last 3 months, well, you're going to be able to get pretty accurate, and they'll take the top of those comps every time. And Colorado, for example, is a disclosure state. Here, we are not allowed to disclose publicly what houses sell for. So that information is for my colleagues, so that they can go in and serve their clients better. And that's the thing is advertising companies don't have a code of ethics that they're subscribing to that falls in line with the National Association of Realtors. So all of my colleagues in San Juan County, none of these guys are going to come into your house, as far as I know, and lie to you just so that they can gain more business. That's not going to happen. So if you just completely dismiss those online valuation tools, call a local professional who has to subscribe to a certain code of ethics. We have the National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics. We have a local board code of ethics, and in the state of New Mexico, we have certain ethics that are localized and at our state level that we all follow, and we all have to do that, or we could lose our license. And we should lose our license if we're not subscribing to those ethics.
Right.
So we can give you a better valuation than most people. Anyway.
You have access to that information, which is great. We just have a couple of minutes remaining this morning, gentlemen. I want to get to one thing that's been in the news recently, and that is it's the first of the month, so everyone's thinking about paying their mortgages, and we've got a lot of uncertainty in the world these days, and so there's been a lot of news about maybe skipping a mortgage payment. The government says it's okay, and I think your advice this morning is to be cautious if that is where you need to be or where you're going. Is that some words of advice, Bryan Crawford?
Yeah, ask Bryan Crawford that question, because he's done the research on this, and knows it.
Okay.
Okay, so here's an example, and I'll try to make this quick. I see the clock. A lot of people are saying, hey, there's payment forgiveness out there. You don't have to pay your payment on your house next month. Well, first of all, you can't just not pay your payment. You have to go to your bank. Now, on Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and VA-backed loans, those are the big government loans, they are allowing for a forbearance. Bank of America, Cornerstone, several of the other large banks. If I miss one and you work at one of those banks, put it in the comment section. But they are offering a forbearance. A forbearance is not payment forgiveness. Let's get that straight. A forbearance is simply a suspension of payments for a temporary amount of time. So let's say Barry's house payment's $1,000 a month, and he says, you know what? I'm in real estate. I've been affected by this COVID thing. I'm not going to pay my payment, and he gets a forbearance passed. And that's a 2-month forbearance, and his house payment's $1,000. Well, on that third month, when his payment is due again, he now owes $3,000. So depending on your bank, you want to sort out the details, because I understand that some banks are allowing a long-term repayment strategy, and I had heard somewhere in an article that I read, but I haven't been able to substantiate this claim, that some banks are just tacking those payments onto the back of your loan, but interest will accrue through that time. So that 2-month forbearance could cost you thousands of dollars. The other thing is, there's really no reassurance. What the articles I've seen is that it will not hurt your credit, but there's really nothing that I can read that's saying that negative credit reporting will not occur in the forbearance period, because typically a forbearance will negatively affect your credit, and it will stack on fees. Now, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and VA-backed loans, they're not tacking on those fees, and what they're promising is that they won't report to your credit. I have a hard time believing that in a crisis situation where everybody's kind of scrambling to make things work, that there's not going to be an accidental credit report on there. Now, all 3 credit bureaus have to give you a free report annually. So if you do this forbearance, monitor your credit, make sure that there are no negative reports going out, and make sure that you're contesting those.
If you see it, show up.
If you see it show up.
Right.
But if you have the means to do so, and if you have the ability to do so, pay your house payment. Buy your food, pay your house payment.
That's important.
That's important.
For the reasons that we mentioned. So
but if you
that's
can't,
great advice.
Yeah, if you can't, there are options.
Right. But again, I think the idea is to reach out to your lender, because that's the first step, to see what options they have. Because if you don't know if they're part of these other bigger government programs, you need to reach out to them and find out.
Yeah, and something that's really sad to me is that oftentimes, because of fear of what people will think, or because of pride, or because of just paralysis by analysis, you're looking at the numbers, seeing that the numbers don't crunch. People will lose their minds trying not to lose a house when they're flailing in their payments, and any time of year. Regardless of coronavirus or anything else, there are options when you can't make your payments. The best thing you can do is call that little number on the bottom of your bank statement, call them and explain the situation. because a lot of people will avoid the collection calls, they'll avoid those phone calls when there are real options. The other thing that you might want to do is if you see for a prolonged period of time, you call a real estate professional and potentially look at selling their house. We all have confidentiality agreements in place with our clients, so it's nobody's business but ours. Myself, Barry, any of our colleagues, any of our cooperating brokers would be more than happy to sit down with you and have a confidential conversation about your options. And sometimes that means I'm gonna say, hey, you know what, just call your bank and say you got 2 months that you can't pay your payment, and look at the forbearance. That's a good option.
Right. Very good. Well, good advice, and thank you very much. Barry Digman, again, I know you're a big Farmington fan. As you mentioned, you've got a lot of folks calling you that maybe are considering moving back to town and bringing their families with them. And I've seen that in a lot of maybe your marketing about taking another look at your hometown. It's a pretty good place that we call home, isn't it?
It's a great place. It really is. I love Farmington. I've lived here a long time. And, for people that are, they finished their careers in other areas and they're looking for a place that's got those beautiful 4 seasons, that's got plenty of outdoor activities. For the folks who are still active, this is a great place. And Scott, one of the jewels, of Farmington is, of course, KSJE. You guys,
well, thank you.
What a marvelous job you guys are doing for the community during this COVID thing. So. Well, kudos to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you for saying that, and it's very kind of you. That's why we're here. We're a community station, so thank you very much. Gentlemen, I appreciate you being here, both of you, and all the great advice you shared with our listeners this morning and our viewers, so thanks for coming in.
All right. Well, thank you for having us.
All right. You're very welcome. My guest from Keller Williams talking about real estate in San Juan County this morning on KSJE. I'm Scott Michlin, back with more in just a moment, everyone. The time right now is 8:41. This program on KSJE is supported by Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation, providing a competent, innovative, and caring team of professionals to serve wealth management, trust administration, employee benefit plans, retirement planning, and estate settlement needs. Find out more about Citizens Trust and Investment Corporation at 505-599-0181.
Take it from a guy who's managed viral outbreaks and natural disasters. You can't manage what you don't measure. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech Demystifying.